So me, believe it or not, and you probably picked up on this. I struggle really, really bad with like social anxiety and talking to people. So and I'm grateful Cole networked this and everything, but it's just you're like guest number 48, 49. I still don't know how to talk to people. I still don't know how to engage. So I just doing this helps me get past my social anxiety. So with all the obstacles that I have, thank you for allowing me to still talk to you and interview you. So with that being said, cameras rolling. They heard everything I just said. I don't do intros or do anything like that. What I do, as always, no, let me stop. But what I do is I give the person I'm interviewing grace by saying a big thank you. You're in the realm of martial arts, correct?
Yes.
So there, regardless of how this talk or interview goes, I'm pretty sure there's going to be jewels that you drop or knowledge that you drop from my audience, and for that, I'm very appreciative. So that being said, you can look at me the whole time. You can look at the camera. This is how I typically start off my interviews. Hey, introduce yourself, and we go from there.
All right, what's up? I'm Vinny,
Nice
Vinny
to meet you.
Romero.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, new owner of Carolina Performance as we're
Shout
sitting
out.
here.
Yep.
Yeah, started out with Element Grappling 3 years ago, and we started out 1,000 square feet. We bumped up 2,000 square feet, and now here we are at 10,000 square feet. So it's been quite a journey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Mr. Vinny, in the realm of fitness, which one started? Did you have a fitness journey first, or did you just go straight into martial arts?
I definitely had a fitness journey first. I was straight into powerlifting.
Say less. Say less.
Yeah, so I was into that. Shout out to like Juggernaut Training Systems and Chad Wesley Smith. I got to meet him like early on. Marissa Inda, and yeah, so I'm from SoCal before I joined the Army, and I was really into powerlifting. Got a little bit into the CrossFit scene with like Rich Froning blowing up and everything, and I was like, oh, I should try that. And I don't like cardio, so
Say less. Stuck with the powerlifting.
Stuck with the powerlifting.
So, allow me to touch. We're going to get to the martial arts, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Again, I think of this as I go. So, competed. You've gotten on the platform?
No, I never got on the platform. In my own head, I knew it was my own fault. I looked at the numbers at like what guys were doing to get like gold, and I was like, oh, I got to get that number before I get on the platform, which is a dumb way to look at it, right? Like I should have just competed just to compete, and had a good time along the way instead of trying to win before even starting,
So you might have. I'll bring it back. Take it back. We'll bring it full circle. So how old were you like when your fitness journey started? Like, were you a kid, a teenager, or was it just one of those? I joined the Army, got introduced to PT, then found a fitness lane.
No, so I actually joined the Army kind of late in life.
Okay.
For military terms. I joined at 28. I started powerlifting about 23, 24.
Okay. So out of powerlifting, bodybuilding, strong, what made you what stuck out to powerlifting to you to where you wanted to train in that regime than all the other ones?
Never thought about something like that. I don't know. Big boys like
Moving heavy ass
yeah,
weight.
I really like the deadlift. That was always my favorite.
I'm only good at the bench, brother. Like as soon as you said deadlift, I'm like my bad back. But no, so if you don't mind me asking, like, what are your if you want to disclose, but what are your numbers for your squat, your bench, and your deadlift?
Oh God, right now or back in the day?
Whatever you feel comfortable telling the audience.
Nothing to brag about. I don't even remember what the real numbers are.
Say less. So moving on to martial arts. So what do you train?
Primarily jiu-jitsu. The last 2 years, I got more into MMA and like the full package of fighting.
So, again, same thing with the fitness questions and everything. So why jiu-jitsu out of all the vast martial arts out there?
So jiu-jitsu is definitely the easiest for anybody to get into, right?
Jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen senior, like currently at Element, we have a guy in his late 50s that just started training. He's been training with us for like 6 months now, and it's something that like you're never too late to start kind of thing, which a lot of people don't know that because they just think of it as like what they see in UFC where guys are getting tossed on their head kind of thing. Jiu-jitsu is at whatever level your training partner and you decide for it to be at. So you can go with somebody who is, wants, hey, I want to go slow, take it easy, and just kind of really practice these moves and just learn, right? So it's fun for them.
Okay.
Or, like you could be 19, young buck, and you're just like, I want to be a world champion, and you're just like trying to kill, and so it's an all-around sport for everybody. I got into jiu-jitsu first because of Jocko Willink and Joe Rogan were having a conversation on the podcast about like where the easiest way to get started is, and they say that like to have a like well-rounded fighter, you need to have a good ground game just as good as your stand-up, and that everyone should start with jiu-jitsu. And I was like, cool, I'll go start with jiu-jitsu.
Shout out to Joe Rogan. So allow me to ask this: in a lot of ways, can jiu-jitsu be compared to wrestling? Because I'm not trying to misspeak, but it's more of a grappling and holding martial art, correct?
Yeah. So all of the best jiu-jitsu guys have great wrestling.
Okay.
Like you cannot be a high-level jiu-jitsu person without a good wrestling game. The only difference is really because they're two separate sports, right? Mm-hmm. High school wrestling, college wrestling, like the sport of wrestling has a rule set and a point system that is specific to wrestling, versus jiu-jitsu, you can be on your back and play like a bottom guard game, and it's fine, versus wrestling, if you're on your back, you're losing, like it's not good. Jiu-jitsu, it's wrestling with submissions, chokes,
Might be a duh type question, but like can you have proficient striking, whether it's the arms or the legs in jiu-jitsu, or does something like that really doesn't matter in jiu-jitsu because again it is a grappling and wrestling foundation?
So jiu-jitsu, there is no striking in the actual sport of jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
A lot of guys do both, right? A lot of girls do both. Like it's not gender specific, but yeah.
Good
but,
save.
But
Let me stop. Yeah.
The actual sport of jiu-jitsu is just pure grappling. There is no strikes. There is new organizations out there called like combat jiu-jitsu, where they've added strikes to it. Sells a lot more views, on TV and stuff.
Gotcha.
Hope I answered that
No.
correctly.
It's fine. So as you were talking about it, and I try to make this make sense. I especially like in the realm of karate, I learned that there's such thing as house names, and house names, from my understanding of it, there's like most martial arts, they have like a manual, like an Army field manual, go figure. But house names, they have like family traditions, like a family adopted this martial art, but they adapted that martial art to their name, and then instead of going off that manual, it just trickled down through generations. Is it like that in jiu-jitsu?
100%, yeah.
So can you mention a couple of house names in jiu-jitsu that
Biggest one everybody knows is the Gracies, right? The Gracies are...
Gracie's in jiu-jitsu as well?
Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? Yeah, that's where...
I thought that was only karate. Well, yeah.
No, yeah, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, that's really where it came from. They brought it here to the States. You had the early UFC, and everyone was just shocked as, arm bars and triangle chokes are beating up these guys that, are huge, massive. I'm going to butcher the names right now, but UFC 2, you had a 400-pound guy going against this really skinny dude in pajamas, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this? Like, I'm saying this guy
in
was,
the early days.
This was
but
1993.
Before there was like weight classes and shit.
Yeah, so back in the day, it used to be open weight classes, just like, barbaric kind of style. Obviously today they've really made it like a commercial brand name sport, that they can have on ESPN, a lot more family friendly, I guess is the word I'll choose. But it used to be wild, and it was just pure. It was what is the best martial art is what they were trying to figure out. So you had karate guys going against, Dutch style boxing versus everything, just trying to figure out what sport, like, because everyone's heard of Wing Chun, all these different types of martial arts, and then the UFC came along and you were able to see purely what the best style martial art is, and then it's evolved so much from there. To where it is today now, where the guys are so high level, where they have to have good wrestling, good boxing, good kickboxing, good jiu-jitsu, just all around. They have to be the whole package to be
A true mixed martial artist.
yeah, a true mix. But to bring it back around to your original question, like big names, right? You have the Gracies who really brought it over here. You have the Atos is a big name.
I remember this because I'm gonna Google this. Yeah.
A lot of West Coast gyms, on the West Coast is huge as far as that goes. But the biggest thing that I really want to highlight, and I think it's great that I am seeing, and what I'm really trying to create here in North Carolina, where it's really not that popular, is how the sport evolved from Brazilian to jiu-jitsu to this American style jiu-jitsu, this American style sport, and that's because really of I would want to give credit to like Eddie Bravo. He started having a lot of guys do what's called no-gi, so traditional jiu-jitsu, the pajamas, right, the gi with the belt and everything, and because of mixed martial arts, guys fight shirtless with just shorts. I can't grab your sleeve and your collar, right? So what's the point in training like that?
Yeah, okay.
So guys started training in what's called no-gi, which is like rash guard shorts or just shorts and, like a t-shirt kind of style to make it a little bit more realistic for when they were to have to fight. And it has evolved so much recently.
No-gi jiu-jitsu.
No-gi jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
where in America, like, you got to be a die-hard jiu-jitsu guy to want to watch gi jiu-jitsu, right? Like even guys like myself that love the sport, we find gi jiu-jitsu just boring because of how slow and like.
Would you say that martial art, Brazilian, the old school, is kind of dying out versus opposed to no-gi?
I'm gonna piss off a lot of Brazilians with this interview, but you see it in the ratings, right? Like you see it in the organizations that are pretty much the top tier organizations for jiu-jitsu. You have ADCC, which is a no-gi only, and they're doing stadiums in Vegas and all these big events. And CGI, which was just $1 million prize pool tournament, it's just massive. And then you see IBJJF, which is traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi, and it looks like it's not at a YMCA, but it looks like it's at a YMCA. The production value is very different. So I think there's definitely American modern jiu-jitsu that is taking over and getting away from that original Brazilian name. So it allows a lot of these up-and-coming guys that are truly skilled, because to go back to what you're saying, it is a martial art that is supposed to be taught and traditions passed down, but nowadays you can jump on the internet and you can learn every single type of strategy and move and technique and counter and defense, like from the top guys at in your living room, instead of having to sit in a dojo and listen and
what would you prefer?
Bow into a sensei.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer? Okay, I don't want to misspeak. I may have misinterpreted, so forgive me. But that style with the research on yourself, or would you much rather be in a dojo setting and in front of a sensei with that type of, any type of training?
So when we opened Element, we did we kind of upset a lot of people in the community is the way I'll put it.
Gotcha.
And the reason why we upset people in the community is we took everything that we did not like about traditional commercial gyms that are, I understand the respect and I understand that, but I don't need to bow in and bow out and spend 30 minutes of my hour-long class doing forward rolls and shrimping down the mats, their warm-up, right? That is supposed to be tradition. When I can show up early, I can stretch, get ready, and then when class starts, we just get right into it. You know what I mean? And kind of take the stuff that personally I think is not very efficient for a class. And
In that regime, I'm asking,
Yeah.
but in that regime in general?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, what we really did was we looked at like, what do the top guys do and what do the top gyms do? And what they do is exactly that. Like, for them, it's a job, right? Like, they compete full time. So what they do is they show up to the gym and they get to work, right? Like, that's it. It's plain and simple. You just get right to drilling. Like, use drilling as warm-ups, you know what I mean? Versus doing a like class focused warm up where it's like, you're kind of just wasting 30
Valuable
minutes.
time, yeah.
To me it almost seems like
Ineffective training.
to me it seems like a lot of these gyms will do stuff like that because I'm selling you an hour-long session, right? But I just spent 30 minutes of that hour-long session running the warm-up instead of actually teaching you technique. It is, a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to coach a jiu-jitsu class, right? Like, where you have, 30 people all circled around you, just listening, just staring at you, waiting for you to show them the move step by step by step. And not only are you going to show them one move, really, like a good class is going to show you 3 moves, right? Like, and really try to help you progress quickly instead of like, I learned 1 move a week, kind of thing, and kind of prolong that membership.
But it keeps a custom. So from a business,
Yeah. So
Well,
what is the
my
goal?
interpretation could be wrong, but based on what you said in the picture I just painted, that's more of a business move than actually. Okay, so from that perspective, Allow me to ask this. I got the attention span of a squirrel. I'm gonna bring it back to the Gracies real quick. Did they only have their hands in jiu-jitsu or other martial arts? You're the second person to bring that name to my channel, so I'm oblivious and all that. I'll admit that. But did they just have their hands in jiu-jitsu or other martial arts?
So what I'm aware of is jiu-jitsu has always been their focus. That's what their family name is known for, and that's what every single cousin and nephew has like gone and opened their own gym through the Gracie family, Gracie lineage. The Gracie system is what it's called. Even the Army, if you ever heard of the Army Combatives program, it was based off of Gracie Combatives that they originally sold to the Army. They've definitely had
Not Russian Samba? Go ahead.
they definitely had a handful of Gracie sons that have made it to the UFC and were MMA fighters, things like that. I don't know personally if they've done any other martial art outside of jiu-jitsu and MMA.
Say less. So bringing it back. So with that being said, right? So probably a duh type question, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask. So you're a teacher, you coach and you've taught, right?
Yeah.
So before you got to the coaching and mentor level, as the student, and again, a duh type question, you've been in bouts, right?
Only jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So how many bouts did you do?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So in white belt and blue belt level, I tried to compete as much as I could. Minimum once every 3 months I'd compete, sometimes 2-3 times every 3 months. Once I got into the more advanced brackets, I stopped competing less, and it was mainly because the tournament prices have really gotten ridiculous. It's not even they've gone up; they've gotten ridiculous. Like it used to be that you would spend $40 for a local tournament. You'd get like 5-6 matches out of it. It'd be a great time. You and all your buddies are there.
Gain the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And they were just local tournaments, and that's how they're supposed to be. And then the big name tournaments were like $100, $125, but it was a big name tournament, right? And then all of a sudden, the local, tournaments that like doesn't really matter start charging $150. And I'm like,
that.
how are you charging more than, ADCC is $100 to compete in, and ADCC is the biggest tournament in the world, right? Like, it's
But this local meet, you're trying to charge more.
You're charging $50
I'm being
more.
bamboozled.
Yeah.
Let me stop.
And then once you get into the higher levels, right, your bracket gets really small, right? Like, and you go from paying $40 to compete against 5 different people to $150 to compete a best 2 out of 3 against one guy. It gets a little bit more difficult to just like want to justify spending $150. What I really love doing now is just going around to different gyms, things like that. Like I've been out to John Salter's gym, former UFC, Bellator, Salty Dog Jiu-Jitsu in Wilmington. Couple of the Element guys, Coach Austin, they were just at Derek Brunson's gym. Also UFC fighter, current PFL fighter right now. So it's where I really get my enjoyment now is just getting to go and meet guys that are just like OGs or they're cool, and I'm like, hey man, I'd rather go spend $100 in gas driving 6 hours to someone's gym to go train with them for a few hours than spending $100 on a tournament. But with that being said, if you're at white belt, blue belt level, I think you should compete as much as you can.
So allow me to ask on this, right? Just competitions in general. What was your temperament like? And I ask any fighter this, whether it's boxing, like did you get the jitters? Were you nervous? Did you like your very first comp? Let's just whatever belt you were, like, what was in here? Was it nervousness? Like, did you want to like?
My heart was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Walk us through that. Like, as a martial artist in jiu-jitsu, like walk us through that.
So, jiu-jitsu is an interesting sport at the competition level because you need training partners. You need to have a team, right? Like you have your gym, you have your boys, you're training, you're working together, you got your coaches, you got all these different people that you talk to and everything. But when it comes time to step out onto the mat, it's just you, your opponent, and the ref. Your coach is there, right? Your coach is trying to coach you through different moves, different situations, things like that, give you advice, but there's only so much they can do from 15 feet away. At the end of the day, all the pressure is on you. First time I competed, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like it's called like an adrenaline dump. Like you just like and you're going all crazy and you're not doing anything, but you're expending so much energy because your heart is just pounding. It takes a lot of competing to get to the point where you just walk out on the mat and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like,
no jitters at all?
No jitters at all. I remember there was one event I did. It was called a quintet. It was like a team duel kind of thing. And this was in a octagon, and there was a couple hundred people there all sitting in chairs, and that was like the first event I did that wasn't in like a YMCA gymnasium. And I just kind of looked around and I was like looking at everybody, took a deep breath, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. Like, and I won three of those matches. Like,
did something in here a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I was like, oh man, this is way different when you're relaxed and you're not like at 100%. I was still gassed, but I was gassed because it was back-to-back matches versus I was gassed because I was freaking out.
But so, and the only reason I asked, so like me, regardless of the martial art, I've only been boxing, but like I've always asked fighters, and what a lot of people don't realize, regardless if it's boxing, mixed martial arts, karate, capoeira, like you have to have a temperament about yourself in the realm of martial arts, period. You can't, and I'm not saying this to down anybody. If this is your nature, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I've learned, you cannot have a completely soft nature to do any martial art. I feel like self-defense is a good thing, but if you're not on the ready yourself, you're in the way, if that makes sense. In the way of your opponent, definitely in the way of yourself. That's just my 2 cents. It might be wrong. A lot of people may not agree with it, but it was just, I always ask anybody, whether you've gotten in the ring, whether you've gotten in the cage, whether you've gotten on the mat, whatever, I always ask like, hey, do you get those jitters? And then I always like to ask like, what do you do to get past them? I liked hearing your answer because a lot of people say, well, sometimes you don't get rid of them. I think you're either, I'll say second. I feel like somebody else say it goes away, but I feel like you're the first or second person to tell me like after a while when you do it over and over again, it does go away. So that's actually nice to know. So maybe I just need to find a martial art that works for me. Anyway, bringing it back to you, right? So since you are a coach and a teacher, so like, what are some of the struggles being a coach and a teacher in that martial art? How about this? Who's easier to train, youngins or adults?
That age doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter whether it's a guy or girl. It doesn't matter. What matters truly is, do they want to be there? Do they want to learn? You can have kids, right, that their parents signed them up because they know the benefits of like training jiu-jitsu, training MMA, but the kid doesn't want to be there. You have other kids that are like, I want to be here. I want to learn this. And it's like they're 6 years old and they're so engaged, or they're 4 years old and they're doing arm bars and you're like, that's crazy. Like this 4-year-old is
At that level, at that age, yeah.
And, but the 12-year-old on the iPad just doesn't care, right? Because they just don't. Same thing with adults. We always do a week free trial, and I do that on purpose because after you come to like 2 or 3 classes, you know whether or not this is something you like, right? Not everybody likes getting, smashed on, rolling around, getting all sweaty, things like that.
Getting thrown out, knowing how to brace. Yeah.
They might think, they're like, oh man, I watched like UFC this weekend and I really want to learn that. And then they go and they're like, oh, this is a lot of work. And they don't want to train anymore, which is fine. This is not for everybody. But if you want to train, you're going to have a different attitude, right? Like you can very easily not be an athlete. Like I make the joke about it all the time when I coach about how unathletic I am, how unflexible I am, like how bad I can be at certain positions or moves. And what it is though is I want to be there, and I put the effort in, and because of that, like I get better just slowly in increments, right? I just like eventually you get good, right? Eventually, if you don't give up, you put that 10,000 hours in, eventually you will get good. And some people are gifted athletes, right? That's just the way the world works. Some people, they come into, gym on their first day and they're like, they're just Captain America, right? And they're just, and they're like, yeah, this is cool, this is great. And I'm like, man, it took me like 2 years to learn that move, and you're doing it first try. So at the end of the day, it's all up here. It's mindset.
Say less. Thank you for that. On the individual, I get. Only reason I asked in that format because I'm pretty sure you've come across a lot of different temperaments, scared temperaments, on the go temperaments. So I was just wondering, like, as a coach and a mentor, trainer, so whatever it is, somebody who teaches, I was wondering, like, just like, what do you deal with? Like, what are the hardships and struggles? But you already identified at the end of the day as also on the individual. So I like that. I like to take it a little bit to UFC. Again, attention span of a scroll. Got into that within the last 2 years, right?
MMA. UFC is an organization.
You're
good.
You knew what I meant. But MMA.
This is going on the internet, so I gotta correct it.
I got you. So with apologies, MMA, right? What were some things that you were introduced that were different in the realm of MMA versus jiu-jitsu?
So I love this story. I love this question. when I first got into MMA and sparring and things like that, I was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And by the time you reach purple belt, I felt that I was pretty proficient in jiu-jitsu, and I used to think that I could fight, right? Like
You keep saying used to think
yeah,
that, oh,
so
whoa,
I
what?
used to, like, when I was a purple belt, I used to think like, oh man, you know, I hope this guy knows, you know, he better check himself, kind of thing. Like, and then I started sparring one of my buddies who I used to, you know, be pretty good against him in jiu-jitsu, right? But he also trained MMA. So like when he was like, oh, hey, you want to spar? And I was like, yeah, dude, let me try this out, you know? And
Wake up call?
oh, I'll never forget this. He just pieced me up, right? Like he just kept hitting me in the face. I didn't know what to do. He just kept hitting me in the face, and then I was like, oh yeah, you know, jiu-jitsu. And like I tried to clinch, take it to the ground. I got the clinch. I got the takedown. We went to the ground, and then we're on the ground, and he just starts hitting me in the face, and I'm like, oh, you know, like it was kind of like that, like, you know, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, but I'm still getting hit. Why am I getting hit, right? Like,
Shit.
and
Okay.
so then I started going into like, oh, I need to do my bread and butter, right? So then I started going for a heel hook, right, leg lock, and that put myself in an even worse position
Oh,
because now
man.
both of my hands were down here around his leg. So I'm not defending my face at all. And you know, we're just sparring, we're having a good time. So he's just tapping me on the face, and he's just hitting me, and my hands are down here, and I'm like, fuck, and he starts laughing. He's like, bro, we're sparring, not doing a jiu-jitsu match, like, you know. And then that was like the moment, right, the light bulb moment for me, where I realized, like, just because I got pretty proficient in one martial art, right, like, does not mean you're good at all areas of martial arts. You have to be well. Like if you know, take it back into something you can relate with, right? Like if you got a killer bench press, right? But you squat 135 and deadlift, you know, 185, right? How good are your numbers gonna be
Terrible.
for a podium, right?
Yeah,
Like, I got a 500 bench, but a 135 squat, like that would be awkward, right? So you got to be well-rounded in all three lifts, right? To be a good power lifter, you got to be well-rounded in all the areas of martial arts, be a good fighter. So I just felt like I should learn this, right? Like why limit myself? And it was tough mentally, right? Because I went from being like, you know, as like assistant coach level, now back down to
Student?
to yeah, like, you know,
Okay,
brand new student again. And it was like, I gotta learn, right? Like it was humbling. It was a lot of guys don't like to get humbled, and you gotta humble yourself.
So allow me to ask this. So was the transition hard from jiu-jitsu into MMA? Because again, it's you were proficient in that, and like you said, you had to relearn everything. So like, was there levels of frustration that you dealt with when you transferred from jiu-jitsu to MMA?
I wouldn't say levels of frustration, because I've already built into my daily routine of at 5 o'clock I'm at the gym, right? Like I've already built that habit. So all I was doing was just adding an additional class into, you know, into my daily routine. And I think that makes it a pretty easy transition. The hardest part about all this is just showing up that first day. It's for the people that like DM the Instagram page and they're like, hey, I have no experience, I really want to like sign up, like, do you offer a beginner class? You know, I always just say like, yeah, brother, of course. You know, like best part I could tell you is just coming in. Like best advice is like just come in, just come try a class, and then you'll get that like anxious feeling to kind of go away once you realize it's like it's not that scary to walk in those doors, right? Like people are intimidated sometimes, and that's the hardest part, because they think everyone in there is gonna like knock them out or something crazy, and they're just afraid to start.
I got you. I got you. If I may, do you feel like there's misinformation? Because it's like this in the fitness realm. So I'm pretty. Do you feel like there's misinformation in martial arts?
Yeah, but there's misinformation in anything.
Okay, I got you. So with that being said, like, where would one have to go to get the accurate information outside of maybe a dojo or a coach? Like, who do you feel like in the martial arts realm gives out the most accurate information that you would trust this person's world in that category, martial arts?
I mean, the one thing is results can't be faked, right? Like,
Jules,
yeah,
Jules, yeah.
if it's a shopping mall, McDojo style place, and the guy has never fought or never competed or never did anything like that, and he's got a black belt with a bunch of stripes on it.
Oh no fucking
You
way.
know, you know what I
That's a
mean?
thing
Like,
for real.
oh, that's a thing. Yeah. But usually it's very easy to Google the head coach, and you can usually see their record, something
The
like that.
accolades and
Yeah,
shit.
and to know, or if you're, like I said, online, there's so many good high level guys that just do free tutorials on YouTube, things like that, and you can see their different tournaments that they've third, second, first place in ADCC, things like that. And you want to learn from those guys, not a dude wearing like American pants,
Yeah,
American
the
flag.
fancy.
Yeah.
So you want to know something that's actually crazy? A boxing coach, shout out to coach at Worlds, but he told me that's actually a thing in boxing. I did not think that that'd be a thing in, well, I guess in it, if it's a thing in boxing, it's like that in other martial arts. But it's just like, one thing he said was like, how is it that somebody can be that, but they're training somebody like to get in the cage or get on the mat? At the end of the day, they're the fighter. But anyway, that's. Thank you for giving me that insight. I really didn't think that somebody would go that far to like. But anyway, to each his own. So with that, do you feel like martial arts is becoming more of a business than actual training? If people are willing to do that, like fake their credentials to teach, do you feel like it's more because there's money involved in martial arts than there is in actually training someone in self-defense?
Anyone who says there's money involved in martial arts is lying. Let me no.
I got you. I got you.
But no, I think places like that are always going to exist. Things like that are always going to exist. The main thing is, though, those places don't survive, right? Like, maybe that guy spends 20 years of his life teaching like a kid's class, right? Just to make ends meet. But those places, they come and go. People want to train, like, especially like once you get a little bit past beginner level, you realize like that you want to train with the best people, and you want to train where there's a lot of high level people, because the more high level people are under one roof, the better everyone continues to raise each other up.
Too easy. So allow me to two questions and we'll cut it. I got you. I got you. So in the realm of martial arts, in your journey, your fitness journey, martial arts journey, just all around, with everything that you've learned, what advice would you give to somebody like fresh on their feet and that wants to start, regardless of the martial art is? As a martial artist, what advice would you give?
Just go.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Straight like that.
Like I said a little bit earlier, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it, but you're never gonna know if you don't try. That's the most important part.
Last, and I love these type questions. So, last one. Whether it's martial arts or jujitsu, what are some things you like about martial arts or jujitsu, and what are some things you dislike about martial arts and jujitsu?
I'm gonna start with the dislike, because that's easy. I dislike the drama, right? Like with any sport, the emotions get involved, the testosterone gets involved, estrogen gets involved. Like there's a lot of the drama is just unnecessary. Like, come to train, that's it, right? The thing that I love about the sport is the community. It is the only thing that I can compare it to is the military, and the camaraderie that is in a jiu-jitsu gym, an MMA gym, it is so natural because of the amount of energy, effort, time, blood, sweat, tears that people put into the sport, you know, into the mats. And you're literally fighting your training partner, right? Like you're trying to choke me out, I'm trying to choke you out. You know what I mean? We're literally fighting at some point. And then the timer stops and it's like, oh bro, thanks, you know, and you
Good sport.
become really good friends with each other. And that's the part I definitely love to see, especially as one of the coaches here, seeing the members that did not know each other 6 months ago become best friends. Like that's cool to see on a whole nother level of just like finding out, oh, those guys been hanging out on the weekends. That's cool. Like they hang out outside of here. Like not only are they friends here, but they're friends, like they've, you know, their wives and his wives, they all hanging out. I'm like, that's cool. I can't, like, we're building a community. That's what's like very rewarding about it, and the part I like the most.
Got you, I got you. So with that being said, again, want to give a final shout out to Carolina Performance, the martial artists, the powerlifters. Want to give a big shout out to Cole for allowing me to come to this vicinity and interview him, interview you. So with that being said, is there, whether they're fitness influencer, powerlifter, martial artist, for your interview and from our audience, is there anybody you want to shout out that, you know, either contributed or helped you along your journey?
Oh yeah, definitely got to shout out my head coach, my business partner, Austin Rivera, high level black belt. I literally don't know anybody better in North Carolina than him, so it's super cool that we were able to come together for this project, and you should definitely have him on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Other than that, that's all the questions I have. As my channel grow, anything with growth, as my channel grow, please allow me to bring you back 6 months to a year, have another sit down. Hopefully I'll be more knowledgeable in the realm of martial arts. That way I can ask you questions that make sense. But thank you for bringing your story, your knowledge, your jewels to this channel, and I can't wait to bring you back.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And we are out. All right.